We have made it to the final episode of the Raise Your Chicks with a Broody Hen series. Today, the chicks that I have been following along here are 6 weeks old and they're looking like real chickens now. They've got all their feathers. So let's get into everything you need to know for week 5 and 6. One of the main things that you're going to notice over weeks 5 moving into week 6 is all the crazy feathering going on. So your chicks are going to be accelerating how quickly they're growing in their juvenile feathers, and it can make for some really interesting looking chicks through this time period. They look really strange and funny while they're growing in their feathers. It's one of my favorite time periods when the chicks are being raised, because just all sorts of strange things happen with their feathers, and you can start to get a sense of what kind of chicken they're going to be as a grown-up. The feathers that your chicks are growing through this time period are their juvenile feathers. So these are not their adult feathers yet. As they grow, which they're going to keep doing, although not quite as rapidly now, they're going to lose their juvenile feathers and start to grow their adult feathers. And that will happen quite a few times until they reach their adult size. And you're not going to know 100% what kind of patterns in the feathers you've got, and if you've got purebreds, what quality that your markings and things are going to be on those feathers yet, because they still have juvenile feathers and that is not your full adult feathering yet. So if you've got some strange looking chicks and you're expecting something different from an adult, don't freak out, they're not there yet. The relationship between the mama hen and the chicks is going to continue to change as the chicks get older. So I mentioned in the previous installment of this series that your mama hen is probably starting to get a little bit less obsessed with the chicks, a little bit less protective, and that is just going to continue on as the chicks get older. So right now, the mama hen we're looking at here with these chicks she's really starting to chill out. She's still with the chicks, she's still looking over them, but she's really letting them do their own thing now. She's not stepping in when other hens or roosters are disciplining the chicks for naughty behavior. She's just letting it roll. She's letting the chicks learn about their place in the world without her mediating those relationships for them. So when the chicks were little, she was like at the top of the pecking order for all the chickens except for the roosters, and she would see anybody off. She was like, no, you can't come near my babies. Now she's come back to her position in the flock. So another hen can come in and tell her to go away. She will listen, she will go away, and the chicks just have to fend for themselves in the pecking order because she is not there to have their back as much as she did when they were little. As an extension of this relationship shifting with the mother and her babies, the chicks are starting to establish their own pecking order amongst themselves. So you might see quite a bit of squabbling and some play fighting, particularly between any cockerels, any baby roosters that you have. This bunch that I have so far, they're pretty chill. They're pretty chill chickens. They're not doing anything crazy, but I have had some boys in the past that just fought with each other a lot because neither of them wanted to back down. But so far, so good. And they generally never go so far as to actually injure each other. There might be a little bit of blood, but nothing serious, nothing that you need to step in on, because ultimately their mother will step in if things go too far, but your opinion of going too far might be different from her opinion of going too far. So they're going to start to form their own little sub-flock within the wider flock, because as the mother distances herself more and more from them and goes back to living her own regular life, they're going to be not fully accepted into the full pecking order of the flock. They're going to be at the bottom of it. They're going to have to get together and make their own little sub-flock until they have become fully mature and can slot in finding their place in the pecking order. But to be honest, they're probably going to stay quite near the bottom for quite some time, and maybe for their whole lives, depending on what the composition of the rest of your flock is. All of these shifts and changes, both the feathering and the relationship shift between the mother hen and the babies and the rest of the flock, they lead into the phase which I call the hooligan phase. And what this phase is when your chicks, who now have their feathers on their wings and their tails and the rest of their bodies, decide to just generally romp around in their little pack, in their subflock, and cause absolute chaos. They are small and light but have their feathers, which means this is the closest time in a chicken's life that they can become a flying bird. And your baby chicks are going to try that out. They can get into places you wouldn't believe that they can get into. They can get through gaps that you wouldn't anticipate that they can get through, and they are adventurous. So lock down your garden beds, make sure you keep anything closed off that you don't want them getting into, and they're probably still going to find a way to get there. It's like when you put a barrier up, it's like a signal for them to just try their hardest to get in there, and they're pretty successful at it. There's certain chicken fencing that will keep the adult chickens in totally fine, and you wouldn't think that the babies could fit through, but they will find a way. I have a loose fence that I use on one side of the enclosed backyard, and the chicks just pop right through it. Even when they're getting bigger and it's a squeeze, they just launch themselves at the fence and wriggle through. They're essentially uncontainable in the situation that I have here. And they just cause chaos and mayhem. They jump onto garden beds, they jump on top of things, once I had a chick that decided that she could get on top of the washing line, and that's where she likes to hang out. So they will do all sorts of things. You will find them in places you don't expect, and they're just generally going to be a force of chaos until, well, for quite a while, unfortunately, until they start to reach sexual maturity. I generally consider them hooligans until that point. They're going to be flighty, they're going to be able to get places because they're not full adult size yet, and they're just going to generally make your life very, very interesting. Those are the most important things you need to know about your chicks for week 5 and 6. Now this concludes this little Raising Your Chicks with a Broody Hen series, because once your chicks are 6 weeks old, they're good to go. If mama hen decides she's done, they're fine. Everything is going well. You got them there. Good job. What I might do in a future episode is put together one about the hooligan phase, because it's pretty interesting, very entertaining, and you guys might love to see the crazy shenanigans that they get up to.